Good evening, sports fans, and welcome to the All Balls Sports Show. Brought to you in part by True Love's Pizza and Grits at 1144 Riverside Drive. A discussion of any and all sports, local, regional, and national. And now, here are your hosts, Dan James, Eddie Bobo, Ty Cobb, and the coach, Vance Ballou.
Well, thank you, Bill Jones. How do, everybody? We are live for the All the Ball Sports Show for this Tuesday evening, the October 3rd, 2017. Glad to have everybody along. No guest tonight. It's just the five guys that are going to sit here and talk sports. and maybe replay something that Ty has on his phone. Maybe not.
What do you want to talk about?
Well, I want to talk about the scrimmage that you saw Saturday at the University of Tennessee. That's for one thing we want to talk about, and then we want to talk about the ever injury-prone Marcus Mariota with the Tennessee Titans and why they didn't choose a quarterback that is similar to his style in a Colin Kaepernick, and why they're reaching out for someone else who is questionable as a backup quarterback.
Matt Castle, who came in for Marcus Mariota.
No, well, they're
They're
bringing on another quarterback right now.
Let me throw this name
You
out there.
throwing something on me I didn't know.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. How about Brandon Whedon? See, you got the same reaction, I think, that everybody else with the sports talk radio had today, too.
Who?
It's kind of like the RCA dog. So that's what they're looking at. But they're kind of bypassing Colin Kaepernick, but he actually fits Mariota's style as far as a mobile quarterback, which is what that offense is supposedly developed around right now. But we'll talk about that.
It's the guy from Oklahoma State.
I don't know where he's
I
from.
think so. I think he's been out a couple of years.
I've
but
heard
it's
of it.
Oklahoma
I have
State.
heard of it.
But do you bring a guy in like that hasn't taken any snaps, he hasn't taken any practice, he hasn't been with the team, he doesn't know the style, he doesn't know the playbook, and do you bring him in at this point as a backup when he doesn't know any of those things?
Oh, I don't think that's uncommon at all in the pros. For if Mariota's going to be out for a while, is that the case?
I haven't heard that. I thought it was just a sprain from the MRI.
No, they said it was he may be out longer than what they think.
Wow. Well, the Dolphins, my team, they signed Jay Cutler at the end when Tannehill went out. So, coach is right. The pros do that all the time.
Yeah.
It's a long season. They have to prepare for that. 16 games, you're bound to.
But with Cutler though, he's coming off a performance from a lackluster performance from Chicago last year.
2 weeks, yeah.
But Whedon,
he doesn't
apparently
really have any experience in the
not
pros.
really.
So I just don't know about that. Matt Castle does.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
Which they're keeping, right?
Oh yeah.
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 I mean,
there's always Tony Romo, if you can pull him out.
I don't think.
I'm just kidding. That's better than Kaepernick, in my opinion. I hope he has no ties to coming to Tennessee Titans. I understand why you say that, but I think especially in this part of America, I don't think he would sell well with the Titans.
The political climate in Tennessee would
before
not allow
we get really deep into Tennessee Titans and UT, explain your pink shirt.
Oh, yes. Thanks, Dan. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and the Columbia Fire Department and Columbia Firefighters Association here locally are selling breast cancer awareness shirts. Somebody's calling now to buy
one.
one.
They're also doing songs.
That's right. But they're $15. We're selling them at Fire Station 1. All proceeds go to raise awareness and fight breast cancer and for cancer research. And cancer has hit the fire service hard and continues to show firefighters when they retire and at a young age developing all different forms of cancer. So we're doing all we can to raise awareness and to give money towards cancer research. So I know in the NFL they promote the pink and wearing breast cancer shirts and wearing it on their uniforms, and we do the same thing in the fire service. We're wearing these pink shirts as part of our uniforms for the month October.
Hey, I want to also give a shout out to all the emergency personnel who responded in Las Vegas on Sunday night for the mass casualties they had out there. Those guys are running in as everybody else is running away, which they should. But police and firefighters are going into the buildings and doing what they had to do, and first responders, and I can't say enough for those guys.
Yeah, it's different today. It's a different climate. It's firefighters, police officers, EMS workers. We're all at that scene together. And what I tell the public when we're out speaking about fire safety and then just the EMS and what all we do, where you turn on the news channel and you see an active shooter or a major incident going on, you're not just going to see a police car or just a fire truck. You're going to see all emergency services working together. It's the way it should be. We knew that after 9/11 and bringing people together under one unified command. But those rescue crews out there in Las Vegas did a great job and treated a lot of people. I mean, you're talking over 500 wounded. You have to triage and you have to quickly look at patients and assess, who's savable, who's not. But I can't imagine what all they were dealing with in a short time span, and then not knowing if the scene was even safe. They're working, treating victims, gunshot wounds, and not knowing if sniper fire is still coming at them, because the dangers of the job, if emergency workers, police officers, firefighters are injured, then who's going to help those who need the help? So we train constantly on these type of emergency situations. And I mean, recently we had the hostage situation that turned out nobody hurt at the bank, but it can happen anywhere. And I can say that from being at Richland High School when we had in November 15th, 1995. So when we had an active school shooting at my school. So it's something near and dear to me to make sure that we do all we can to prepare for it. And if it does happen, that we can get in there and save people's lives.
In this area, Richland was one of the first, was it not?
It sure was.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Because I remember with the radio station, we covered it live at that time in 95.
95, been 22 years.
Yeah, that's amazing. A lot of things have happened in 22 years.
True.
Yep.
Well, the paramedics riding with the fire truck and the fire truck going with the ambulance, is that all as a result of 9/11?
Well, I would say just the unified approach, yes.
Right,
but as far as EMS and what the fire department is doing, a lot of our personnel work for EMS on their off days. So, but what we've learned over the years is fire stations are spread out throughout the cities and county, but full-time departments where they have EMTs and full-time paramedics, like Central High School has Station 2 just right down the street. So they can be at Central High School within 2 minutes. And that 2 minutes is critical in saving somebody's lives. When it's 4 to 6 minutes, you want to start CPR and you want to start putting that AED on and giving shock rhythms to try and bring them back, or whatever type of emergency might be. If it's somebody with a gunshot wound, but you've got to get there quick and get them to 11-1 Trauma Center. And our firefighters can get there within 3 to 5 minutes anywhere in the city. And that's critical time when you're dealing with somebody's life. So I think it was the right move when the fire service 20 years ago went to responding to medical calls. I can't tell you how many times we've saved lives. Chip, you was probably on the city council when we made that decision to start responding to medical, but it happens daily now. And we're trying to improve that by going to advanced life support, which is pretty much doing everything that those medics do in an ambulance in a pre-hospital setting. We can perform all that care, IVs, pushing those drugs, trying to stabilize that patient, because you never know. You could, depending on what's going on in the city, if there's another accident or accident out in the county, you could be waiting 10, 15 minutes on an ambulance. And we don't want anybody to wait on care. We want to get there and treat them and stabilize the patient.
Well, we will give a shout out to Maury County School Systems for putting the AEDs in these schools now. In the gymnasiums especially, there's one on every wall.
Right.
Which is
And
nice.
the city of Columbia's been proactive in that too. We have AEDs at Ridley Park.
Right.
But you never know when you're going to need that. And just in today's situations with things going on in the world, I mean, we have to be prepared now more than ever. So,
has the communication gotten better between fire department, police departments, EMS, because that was the big problem in New York at 9/11 was the fact that they did not have overlapping communications to where they could dispatch what they needed to dispatch at the time.
It has, and what we've done here in Columbia, especially the last 5-7 years, is we went to computer-aided dispatching. It's called CAD software, where our fire trucks, our police vehicles, chief officers' trucks have the computer-aided dispatching, so we can see when that call that 911 gets, we can see that pertinent information right there on the screen, pull it up on the map, see the call history. We know everything that's going on. It's very important, but not only do I see it, but the police officers see it too. So a lot of times now we're able to stay off the air, off the radio traffic, and just communicate through that computer. It's very valuable, but it also lets the dispatchers keep up with where we're at so they can tone out the closest unit. It's just like right now, if they could see that I'm here and you had a medical emergency in Rolling Fields, they could contact me and I could be there quicker than ambulance. So technology.
That wasn't what that phone call was.
No, it wasn't. You got me. That would have been this phone. So I have 2 phones. But I didn't mean to get off on that. But that's,
No.
you know, when you think about it from a sports standpoint and you think about how many people were at Central High School other night, I mean, you could have a medical emergency or a serious injury on the field, and, you know, we all work together. We're all licensed by the state, whether you're in a fire truck or EMS unit, and we're there to do a job together and make sure we take care of the people. So,
well, we've always felt blessed at Central High School to have, like you said, the fire department right there. We also have the ambulance service right there, medical center, hospital, bone and joint clinic, all within 2 minutes of the high school. Everybody that has been in charge of a large group at Central High School has been, you know, felt that security by having all that so close by, and the police department close by as well. So that it adds a huge benefit to our school and has been for years.
And faculty and the students, we practice together, you know, fire drills, and when we have certain type of incidences where we might do a vehicle accident and show them how that happens and how we, you know, would extricate somebody out of a car. So, I mean, the school system and like Coach is talking about, we've all worked together to make sure that we're prepared for any type of emergency that happens, because it's not a matter of if, but when. I mean, you know, things are going to happen, whether it's severe weather or vehicle accident or a fire in your school. You know, we've come a long way with the modern codes, and our fire marshals division and codes in the city of Columbia do a great job in inspecting and making sure our buildings are up to par, and the state fire marshal's office that inspects schools. So that's why we've seen a decline in fires, because we try to be in front of it in a prevention mode. But all the other types of emergencies that we're responding to are just, you train for them, but you never know what's going to happen. Who would have ever thought, like the other night in Las Vegas, that they would have had that type of incident? So,
and that's one of the things we share with visiting coaches when we're doing our pregame ceremonies, is that we do have paramedics here, ambulance here, hospitals 2 minutes away, fire departments 2 minutes away, and it's just a relief for everybody to know that. And plus, we've got hands-on security as well.
And
the neat thing is you can see Murray Regional Hospital's logo from the field.
Coach is right, too.
Yeah.
I mean, Murray Regional has really improved their ER. They've come a long way. And, again, if we needed to get in, whether it's a player or somebody that's sick, to a level 1 trauma center, we've got Vanderbilt Life Flight out at Mount Pleasant Airport, and then you have Air Evac, so they can be at Vanderbilt Hospital within 30 minutes, which is critical in that golden hour.
All right, let me ask you this. Is Air Evac allowed at Vanderbilt now?
Yes.
At one time they were not, because they didn't have dual engines on their vehicles.
They are.
Okay.
So,
excellent.
That goes back 17 years when I was on the airport board, so I'm just
But you
I'm
are
just
right.
saying. Yeah. At one time when they had single-engine Hueys, they were not allowed to land at Vanderbilt.
I remember that.
That's right. Anyway, thank you for the job you do.
We got great people.
We do. We have a great fire department. Absolutely, without a doubt. Because we're still
Number
class 1.
Yep. I feel confident we can hold that, but it takes a lot of work, and we're working every day to keep that ISO 1. So
your tax dollars are working.
are
out there,
working.
everybody.
Not just in the fire department, but throughout the citywide. I mean, when you look
without a doubt.
you look at sports facilities in Ridley
Oh,
Park. and,
yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
the city is really.
Hey, Mac Reagan is doing a great job. We just
Don't
haven't had
tell
him
him-
on.
don't tell him
I
too
know
much
his
this
head
year.
will get this big.
It's already that big. What are you talking about?
But he's like a judo champion. I'm not going to mess with him, man.
Well, you know, you were
No, I
talking about the AED units and everything. I think University of Tennessee could have used several of them Saturday.
Yeah, let's
I could have used one myself. I thought, what did I drive up? I should have stayed in Pigeon Forge because my wife and I went up there for the weekend. And
Yeah.
I thought, man, I should have scalped these tickets before the game if I knew it was going to be a scrimmage, one-sided scrimmage. But I just, if we're ready to go into Tennessee football,
Oh yeah,
I'm
we're
going to
ready.
try.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to be very to the point here. One thing I couldn't figure out is there was a 3rd and 3, and they pulled Callaway out of the game. There was just some questionable play calls again this week. I won't go into detail. And then I told my wife the very first play when Normandy threw the interception, I said, it's going to be a long day.
Mm-hmm.
And I was right. It was
But you
a
know,
long
when we
day.
got the turnover and Georgia was up 10-0 at that point, and we deep in their territory, we were in scoring position. In the very first play, the centers it off his own rear end, and the ball's rolling back toward Dormady. And instead of Dormady just falling on it like he should have and taking the loss at that point, he tried to scoop the ball, and when he did that, he hit it and hit it right into the arms of a Georgia player, you know, and that guy did what he's supposed to do.
Was that one of those? Was that one of those John Madden scrolling on the TV screen
Oh yeah,
kind of moments,
yeah.
like on the Replacements?
Yeah. But you know, I had to work over Saturday, and I missed the whole first quarter. Well, I didn't miss the whole first quarter, but I missed half of it. Come in, and my son had it on the game, and so I sat down with him and watched with disgust the whole first half. And halftime, my son says, I think I'm going to go in there and get on the computer. So he went and got on the computer in his room, and I went back and told him, well, the second half's getting ready to start. He said, I'm good, Dad.
You just knew, I'm telling you, sitting in that stadium, you just knew when they went down 10-0, they wasn't coming back.
No.
I'm
I
just
mean,
telling you.
you could look, well, even on TV, the look on their faces out there, you know, everybody had that deer in the headlight looks, you know, like, what's happening, you know? And
Boy,
Well, I get a text. I'm at the band contest, and I'm announcing the bands, and I'm having a good time. I get a text from a friend of mine who's at the game, who said they're booing.
oh yeah,
They're booing
at halftime when
They
my
did that.
Tennessee team.
when the team was coming off the field, the fans were actually booing the team.
I promise you that was a worse performance than any of Derek Dooley's games. And I know he didn't do much at Tennessee, but that game Saturday,
Isn't
Derek
that isn't that the single worst home loss at Neyland Stadium since 1912?
yeah, and it's the worst
yeah,
one I've
and-
seen in my 39
And
years.
it's worst shutout since '94 when
Florida.
beat us 39-0.
Yeah,
So, you know,
Yeah, but
Butch is setting records.
yeah,
He's setting
wrong
records.
type of record.
I'm just saying, he's setting records.
What'd you say earlier? Brick by brick.
But you
Need
gotta
a
have
little mortar in
But you
them
gotta have
bricks.
some water in between those bricks. Vance is wanting to say something.
Go
he
ahead,
really is.
Vance.
Come
Go
on,
ahead.
Vance.
I know Alabama fans sitting over there gloating that they beat Vandy 59-0, beat Ole Miss 66-3, and you know he's probably thinking, well, we'll put up 100 against UT.
If you ask Vance to say, Vance, what's the Alabama Tennessee game going to be like? He'd go, pain.
It's a possibility.
you remember Maurice, and we were talking a couple of weeks ago. He was on the show, and even back last year we was talking about that this season, people were predicting Tennessee go 8-4, and I said, I'm not going to be satisfied with 8-4. I'll tell y'all right now, I'll be satisfied with 8-4. If we could win 8 games, I'd be shocked.
Yeah, but look what you got left.
I don't think we can win 8 games.
We'll be lucky to get bowl eligible.
I think we could go 7-5, but I think Kentucky is going to be a tough football game.
Well,
and I think Vanderbilt's going to. That's going to be really tough.
Yeah. If Vandy don't win another game,
Vance is over here smiling. He's wanting to say something.
You know.
Hey, he can have the mic because I can't.
Well, I mean, he can back it up. I mean, you know the.
I guess that was an omen there.
No, not really.
I don't get any joy from seeing UT play poorly. I really don't.
No.
But, you know, it appears to me they're not very good.
Do you think they have talent?
Yes, they have some. You know, I'm a little bewildered. I have to say that. You know, I think it's possible they go on and win the majority of the rest of their games, but in order to do that, they've got to get better. What they've been the last 3 weeks or so is probably not going to beat anybody left on their schedule. So, you know, they've got their hands full in putting things back together. My take Saturday is after things started falling apart, I started watching the offensive line, and they're not very good.
They suck.
They're struggling. They've got a lot to improve, and I think if they did that, and I'm just guessing maybe the defensive line is better, but having some of the same top problems. But if those two groups start playing well, then they're a different team because they have the skill people. You know, they're inexperienced at quarterback, but that will come with experience as they go on, and the quarterbacks will be better when the offensive line is handling things. That's almost always the case. You know, a lot of times we're on quarterbacks because they threw a couple of interceptions or made this mistake, that mistake, and a lot of times it's because people are flying around at them. Right. You take that same quarterback and his offensive line is winning the battles, and all of a sudden he looks like Peyton Manning or whoever.
Right.
You know, so if they can improve in the offense and defensive line, they can end up being a good team for the year's over. But with all the disappointment, all the things going on, it's going to be hard to do. You know, if Butch Jones can win out minus Alabama and win a big bowl game, he will have had to have done a great job of coaching and regrouping and putting things back together. And I think that would have to mean their offense and defensive lines have gotten a lot better over the course of the year.
But if they lose to South Carolina and then they come back and lose to Alabama, do you think that mentally those kids won't be able to come back?
I think it's going to be tough to get them back now. I really do.
Yeah.
But it's not impossible. You know, yes, you're right. If they lose both those, then it'll be impossible. Let's say they do go out and play well against South Carolina. Then they could look like a different team against Alabama than they did against Georgia. You know, if they win or not, they could still, and then carry the rest of the season, you know. But again, that's going to be tough. He's got his hands full. I don't envy him one little bit. To keep everybody focused, to get better when everybody's focused on something else is a heck of a challenge. I mean, you know, that's going to be tough.
So what's your predictions?
I knew he was laughing for a reason.
I'm not against UT at all. I'm not that kind of.
No,
Alabama
but realistically,
I like college football more than I do any one particular team. So I hate to see them in this predicament, really.
I mean,
you know, if I had to predict one way or the other, I'm going to say he's got too much to overcome. But I hope that's not true.
Well, you know, this is this team this year. I mean, these are his recruits. This is his bunch. He can't blame it on nobody else's players. This is his bunch that he brought there, and you know, they're not getting the level of play, like you said, out of the offensive line and the defensive line. And you know, I look at coaching when I see that, because most of that is by technique, and you know, you teach the proper techniques to the kids. I mean, you know, out of 3 plays, you ought to at least have one hole opened up somewhere or another where a guy can run for some decent yardage. But they couldn't open up a hole for, you know, a slime ball to go through Saturday. Well, yardage Kelly got, he got it on his own, you know.
But going back to you as a high school coach, of course, you can't recruit like Ensworth and BGA and the rest of them. Did I just say that? I'm sorry. But you're a high school coach. You're teaching the fundamentals of football that kids have already either learned from Bulldogs or some other place, but you're honing those skills at their level, and you have to play with what you have. So the rank and file is more lenient toward you when your teams do not win. But you proved over your career that you can take kids and go to a state championship 2 years in a row from Columbia, Tennessee, and end up with a state winning champion in 2010. What is the psyche of a college coach that can go out and recruit the way that Butch Jones does, but he's got kids that don't perform? Is it his staff? Is it him? Is it the kid?
It's probably all of that. I mean, it's a difficult job to do. You know, no doubt about that. I mean, to me, more times than not, you're not going to meet the expectations of your fans. I mean, if you took the 14 SEC schools right now,
they can't all win.
That's right. 2 of them right now are really, really happy.
Yeah.
2 more are probably so-so, and the rest of them, you know, are hoping for something more than what they got, which is understandable. I mean, everybody wants to win, especially if you drive halfway across the state and pay a couple $100s for a ticket. Then you're highly motivated.
Well, I'm glad I was
I
at
can
home.
understand that. I really do. But to put it all together and win to meet the expectation of your fans, just guessing off the top, that probably happens less than 25% of the time.
Wow.
You know, if you take in all those programs and what's going on, and then it fluctuates up and down. You know, the Texas A&M folks were real unhappy about 3 weeks ago, and now they're 4-0. Well, excuse me, 4-1. And, you know, and there's examples of going in the other direction too. Mississippi State looked really great 3 weeks ago, and now they've been wiped out the last 2 games. So, but to play effectively and get those wins, it takes coaching and talent and good technique, good communication up front. And my guess is UT's lacking in some of those areas across the board. There's probably, you know, maybe one of those areas they're outstanding at, but the others are holding them back right now. So, you know, they got to go back to work and not be thinking about everything else, if they can do that, and put those things back together. You know, you solve 75% of your communication problems and 25% of your technique problems, and your coaches do a little better job of preparing you, and then slowly you start becoming a different team.
Is it the outside distractions, though, that when these kids do go to class, that, you know, you hear in the background maybe somebody say, God, you guys suck. And it's all of a sudden they start believing this, no matter what the coaches tell them out there. If they don't have that confidence going into that game, then it's going to pull them down from there on.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure it happens quite often in college, and there's no doubt in high school it does. I mean, you 16, 17-year-olds are always hearing what they ought to do. They ought to beat this team. They ought to lose. They're going to lose to this team. They're not any good. They're really good. They're always hearing more than what the actual situation is. So a lot of times, if they get encouragement from fans that part, to strive and do better and all those things, and to be good teammates, all those things are tremendously helpful. But what you ought to do or what you're going to do ahead of time thinking is really tough for a 16-year-old to overcome. I hope that it's easier for 20-year-olds, but I'm sure it's still a battle. Plus, it's more intense and it's more people involved, so there's a harder chance of getting away from it.
What is the likelihood that 16 or 17-year-old is going to sit there and listen to a parent that says, you don't need to be doing it this way like the coaches are trying to teach you. You need to be doing it this way. I mean, we've heard that and we've seen that from where we are, and it's a little disturbing that let the coaches do their job, dad or mom. Let them coach their child the way they should be coached, and don't try to step in and be the Monday morning quarterback.
Yeah, that no doubt happens quite often. Hopefully there's some parents out there, and I think there are, that are doing things the right way and supportive of coaching in those decisions. Coaches kind of get used to that as time goes on. It's not a shock to them after you've been in it a few years, just like you learn on the job, any other type of job.
Right.
The problem is it's hard on that kid. He's going out and spending 2 or 3 hours practicing with that team and that coach, and he's got a conflict between which adult should he follow. Should it be the coach or the parent? He should never be in that situation. It's too great of a conflict for a youth to be put in. First of all, he's got to follow direction of adults. That coach is in charge of him for 2 or 3 hours, and that coach is going to make decisions about his playing career. He's going to go home, and his parents are going to be in charge of him. So it's a conflict that's almost impossible for any kid to overcome, and they shouldn't be put in that situation. I think the best parents in sports are the ones that don't even talk about technique and playing time with their kids. You want to be involved with your kids. You spend your time talking about, how well they paid attention, what their conduct was like, how they responded to something that was difficult. Those type of things are where the parents can make a difference in not just the sport for that kid, but for that kid's life and growth, and and how he's going to respond to things in the future.
Well, I don't say this to be blowing smoke. I say this out of the bottom of my heart that having watched you for the number of years that I watched you, you were an excellent head coach.
Well, I appreciate that. I had you referred to our run with the state championship. That was definitely player driven. We had kids that came from good backgrounds, from all walks of life, but their parents had taught them the right things. They were talented, they were team oriented, and we had a good staff, and it paid off for us.
And that brings us to retirement of a jersey on Friday night.
Absolutely. We retired Shaq Mason's jersey this summer, and we wanted to do this whole thing all together. Of course, Shaq Mason's not going to be available during football season for the next 20 years, we hope. So we kind of pieced it together and did it the way that we could. First of all, we wanted to honor Shaq, and we had 2 other former players that we felt for us were in the same category.
And they are men.
Yes, they are, absolutely. And that's they both wore number 30. Tredarius Goff, who graduated in 2011, so 10 would have been his last football season when we won the state championship. He was most valuable player on offense and defense in that game. Led the team, or set the career mark for tackles at Central High School, along with touchdowns. Fred Sparkman was Mr. Football in 2002, also wearing number 30. He was runner-up Mr. Football in his junior year in '07 when we had the 10-0 season, which was the first time in 50 years. So that was quite an accomplishment. Both those guys were leaders. They both went on and played in college. Fred at North Carolina, and then Shaw University, and of course Trey D at Tennessee Tech, where he ended up being the third leading tackler in full career at Tennessee Tech. So very proud of those guys. We're going to retire that number on Friday night at the beginning of halftime. So Coach Hoth can take part in that ceremony before he goes on with the team. Very thankful for Coach Hoth and Roger White for helping us put this together, and we're excited to do that. Very honored to have those young men come back, and excited about that. Now, number 30 will continue to be worn until the current player graduates. We're not going to take a number off, who happens to be D. James, who is Shaq Mason's brother. So, yep. I mean, this thing just plays out beautifully.
It does. It does. What we should do is give, during that period of time when we were at the state championship, is give Tredarius the IAT award, which is the Injuries After Tackle award.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because he was incredible when he would, I mean, with the ball, he hurt people.
Yes, he did.
I mean, he was. No, I don't mean intentionally. It just happened in the game, but he was a beast.
Mm. He was.
People didn't want to tackle him.
You're right, and he did it on both sides of the ball.
Yeah,
and he was a tremendous hitter, tremendous competitor. Fred Sparkman was the same way. He made so many big plays on both sides of the ball. Both those guys played a huge amount of plays for us. I think that's something that needs to be said for them. They played well and made big plays when they were playing basically entire games. Quite an accomplishment there for those two guys.
I know Tredarius started as a freshman, and I think he was in every game, wasn't he?
He did. Both of them were 4-year starters.
Right.
Fred and Trey D were, which were the only two that I had, with the exception of Bryant, but he broke his ankle in the first scrimmage, and I think maybe we had one. No, I think those were the only two that I had. Other than that,
wow.
We just did not bring up many freshmen through those years, and those guys did an outstanding job from the very beginning in our program.
So it's halftime on Friday night at senior night.
Yep, senior night, which will take place at 6:30 before the game.
So Eddie and I will
for the
bring
football.
We will bring our AARP cars because it is senior night.
And then, of course, following that, at halftime, following the retirement of the jerseys, we'll have senior night for the band, dance team, and cheerleaders.
Right. Which I get to announce.
All expressed by Dan James and his fine voice.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm learning names. I'm still learning some names.
I can imagine.
No, you can't.
Oh, yes, I can, too. I have to call roll 5 times a day.
Oh, that's
so
right.
I know
Yes,
exactly
you
what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I try the count 'em method whenever I can.
And there's one particular name that I was told, do not mess it up.
It's always a challenge. Pressure's on.
That pressure is on, because I was told that he screwed it up when he announced it. So he was told that this is the way it is, and this is how it's pronounced. And I have been practicing for 2 days.
Oh,
I even recorded it onto my computer here so that I could hear it back. And it's been like, they say if you hear something 3 times, you remember it.
No.
I've listened to it 150 times, and I still don't have it.
Yeah. I don't believe that theory either. On the way over here today, I realized I was downtown before I missed the turn to your house by only a mile or so.
Did you make the big loop and come back?
Yes, I did.
Oh, okay. All right. Good deal. Good deal. Tennessee Titans.
I was checking the AP here, and the Titans did sign Brandon Whedon to a 1-year deal as of within the last 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that excites any of us, but they're not saying how serious Marcus Mariota's injury is, but it's not as serious as they first thought, and it's day to day after the MRI yesterday. So, but Derek Carr for the Raiders, he suffered a fracture in his back. He's going to be out 5 weeks, and the Raiders are on a roll. So that's got to be devastating for Oakland. But, you know, everything around the Titans offense is
Oakland
built
lost
around
their last
Mariota.
2 ball games. So
I mean, the NFL is unpredictable.
yes, it is.
It's just unpredictable.
is.
I mean, look, did Kansas City win last night?
Blue. Did they come back?
They came back and beat the Redskins. It was tied up when I cut it off.
I couldn't tell you. I didn't watch any of it. I went to bed early last night.
So, but the Titans' offense is built around Marcus Mariota. So
That's what I'm
that
saying.
one's going to be
Around a
interesting.
around a mobile quarterback. So
I
I
didn't.
don't know.
I didn't watch the game Sunday. I took a break from football and went to Dollywood. I'm glad I did because I heard nothing was worth watching with the Titans. So true.
But 57-14 on a team that has touted so much talent and has bought so much talent, and I think you expect more from them than that.
But that's the way the NFL is. 1 week you can be diamond, next week you're getting slaughtered. It seems like. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's.
well, I picked Houston over the Titans. Sunday, and
How much money did you put on it?
well, I refuse to say that, but anyway,
He goes to makeabet.com or something like that.
no.
I'm
No.
kidding you, and you know that.
I got my own bookie. But
The pink card.
I'm not saying. but anyway,
Well,
you know what, especially after the showing that Houston had against New England
Mm-hmm.
the week before, they actually had New England beat, and I was disappointed that they didn't try harder for a first down instead of settling for that field goal, and giving Brady the ball back with a little over 2 minutes to go. That's a no-no.
That's bad.
That's bad
I
juju.
don't understand. Yeah.
Bad juju.
Let's see. Was that Monday night? What game?
That was on
The Brady and them drove down the field and scored and won.
Mm-hmm.
What game? Who were they playing?
They're playing
Houston.
Texans.
Houston.
Yeah.
I don't. This just popped in my head, but I don't understand when it's 4th and 1 and you kick a field goal and you're playing the Patriots. Run the football because Brady's going to drive back down the field. I think you're not
that's a
going to
good
beat
point.
just
You
like Alabama.
can't-
You're not going to beat Alabama with field goals.
Yeah.
You
You're
can't
not going to beat the Patriots with field
give
goals.
him 2 minutes left because
No.
of
They should
Gronkowski
have run the football.
and all of his receivers. You can't do that.
As much as we think we know about football, why aren't we coaching? I've been
Ask
making
him.
a lot of calls.
Ask
lately.
him, ask Vance. He'll tell you why we're not coaching. Because we're sitting here doing this. That's why. Because we're armchair quarterbacks. Because we're Monday morning coaches.
Yeah, it's easy to sit back and critique other people.
It is easy to
It
sit in that
is.
press
It
box
is.
on Friday night and go, why did the coach do that?
But I would still run the ball one time if I'm on the 1 yard line.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
against Florida.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean,
I'm sorry.
really? John Kelly's been lighting it up all day long, and he's got 1 yard to go for a touchdown, and you
Remember-
throw the ball?
Remember, the initial play call was a run, but they didn't have a no check included in the call, which meant the quarterback could check at the line.
Yeah, that reminds me of a Fred Sparkman story right there, which I
Oh.
think is
Well,
very fitting. Probably 2001, the year we were 10-0, we're playing Tullahoma, and we had Fred was our up back on the punt team because we ran fakes with him, and he could. No, everybody was afraid of him, so nobody was going to block our punts with Fred back. We put in a fake punt that was an automatic. If we knew Tullahoma lined up a certain way, if they line up like this, Fred, you run the fake where they snap it to you, you throw it to the receiver and 10 yards out in the flat. Well, that's how we left it. Well, it got down to the game, and we're up like 3 points halfway through the fourth quarter, and we have to punt from our own 20-yard line. Fred Sparkman did exactly what he was told. They lined up that way, and he had the ball snapped to him, and he threw the pass out there perfectly. We went 80 yards for a score and put the game out of reach. All the time, of course, we're on the sidelines hollering, no, 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 yes, 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 yes. So sometimes those no cutoffs there work to your advantage.
Yeah, but when
not in that case.
when the quarterback calls a check on it and goes to a pass play and he throws into triple coverage, which is bad juju. And thankfully it wasn't intercepted at that point, but it was 2 plays later. But I don't know.
I'll tell you what, when I got back to my vehicle leaving Neyland, cut on the Ball Network just to listen
Well, let me ask
to
you
the
this
game.
before,
And our
before you
friend,
say that, how many were leaving with you?
whoo, I probably got out of there quicker than anybody, but they were all behind me. I'm telling you.
So you
Well-
listen to our buddy Bob Kessling.
And Tim Priest, and boy, you could see hear the disappointment in their voice. And I'm telling you, Tim Priest said one time Georgia's playing their second and third string, and Tennessee was fixing to punt the ball, and Priest said, "Let's not soccer kick it this time. Let's just kick it." And I said, Tim Priest, well, he doesn't cut anybody any slack when it's bad performance. And I said, Tim Priest is very
when
frustrated.
You kick one off your teammate's helmet,
Yeah.
So
yeah, that
Could
ain't
have got a
good.
targeting penalty.
I wish I could have had that recorded and let y'all hear that before the show tonight, because you would have been like, man, you could just feel the disappointment in their voice just
Oh
by
yeah,
how
yeah.
I wasn't. Nobody was left at the game in the.
I
But
refuse.
of
but
Georgia.
I understand that frustration, because when the Columbia Lions last year were 0-10, when they're 0-9, I'm going to the last Thursday night show that we do with True Love's Pizza and Grits Thursday night preview, and I told Carolyn, I said, I can't do this anymore. I can't. I cannot put a happy face on an 0-9 season at this point. And she says, you have to go, because that's what you do. And it was hard. It was tough because I'm trying to stay positive. We're hoping for that first win, and it was difficult to do. Believe me, this year is a whole lot better than last year because we're 4-1.
Coach turned it around, hadn't he?
Yeah.
They've done a good job.
Because basically the seniors said, we're not going to go out like that. And the senior leadership has stepped up, and I think they have finally decided that it's time to put on the big boy pants and let's do this thing. I mean, we got Franklin County coming up with senior night on Friday night, and yes, it is fall break, but I still want to see everybody out there just to support our Lions because they have turned this thing around. And other than the loss to Summit, we're doing pretty good at this point.
Absolutely, and we do need that big crowd. It is a big game. We're 5-1. The only district games left, so a shot in the playoffs is going to be on the line each week. And this is the game this week. It's Franklin County. So
I'm sorry, I was wrong.
yeah.
5-1, not 4-1.
And you've got a good point there. Our kids need to see that people support them and what they've been through, and that doing the right things that they've done has paid off for them. And there's no other way to send that message that's better than when you look up there and you see 2,000, 3,000 fans on your home side encouraging the kids.
Because they will bring, other than their band, which may or may not be a full band, they won't bring that many folks from Franklin County, and it's important that we fill those stands up. And when I say it's third down, I'm expecting our folks to get loud because that's just the way that we do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I posted on Facebook today, more cowbell. I mean, let's do this thing because these kids at this particular point in juncture in this season are deserving of the crowd to be there.
Absolutely, and it can make a huge difference in the game and a huge difference for these kids as well.
So, get out to Franklin County 7:00 on Friday night at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. I believe. Is it 5:15? We have the line walk, and then there will be regular tailgating this week, where there wasn't tailgating 2 weeks ago because of the Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola people put it on.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was disappointed. We kept looking out there. I didn't see that big of a crowd at the tailgate for the Spring Hill thing that Coca-Cola was putting on. Maybe our view was obstructed somewhat, but it didn't look like that many people participated in that. I don't know.
I have no idea. I know it's a big crowd on our side for the game.
What's it look like for Franklin County Friday night?
Coach, are they still running the same thing that they've always run?
They're running at Wing T.
Wing T.
They're running the Wing T, but they do have a new coach, Mac McCurry, who
and they got a big running back.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, we had the same thing with Spring Hill, and you see what we did to them.
Running back.
oh yeah, always do.
Always.
Yeah,
Them's are some grain-fed boys down there.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
The Smith boy for Spring Hill, Dante Smith, he got quite a bit of yards against Columbia. I mean, outside those three big runs, I mean, we kept him contained most of the time, but then he turned around and went to Maplewood, and he got hurt early in the game, and Maplewood came back and beat Spring Hill 20-17. So I don't know if Dante was still stinging a little bit from some of the hits that Columbia put on him or whatever, but they were doing some hitting out there.
Well, Coach, let me ask you: are you seeing? I mean, you're an outside observer of the football program, but you are the athletic director for football, and I know you keep a close watch on what's going on. You can't fool me. I know that. But do you see a lot of players this year that are really stepping up and taking charge?
Oh, I think so. I think first of all, Coach Hoth had a good group of seniors that took on some senior leadership and made a difference there, and we played a lot of young kids last year. We benefited from that this year, I think, and that's pretty much it. A lot of kids are stepping up and taking on responsibility for the program and then going out and performing on Friday night.
I mean, Jazarius Zachary lit it up.
He did, and that was really a great story to the game. He, depending on how you look at it, he really was kind of the third running back going into the game. Corey Fields missed the game with a leg injury, was not dressed, and then the second back, Kenneth Helms, got injured early in the game, and then Zachary came on and just played a tremendous game.
Yeah,
had over 200 yards rushing and probably 5, 6, 7 really big plays, long runs that turned the field, and had a huge impact on the outcome of the game.
I think it was really a good show for Columbia with the fireworks and everything beforehand, and we had the TV running and all that kind of stuff, and it was a magical night out there at Lindsey Nelson.
It was, and Jalen Hall had the big fumble recovery in the end zone.
And he's saying he's wanting to set records here and following his brother's footsteps and do better. Well, that's fine. Yeah. Hey, we're all up for it.
That's right. That's right. I know. I talked to the Hand Boys' stepfather at great length before the Spring Hill game, and he said that the boys that are the same age group as the hand boy is, they have already got it set in their mind. They want to go back to the state, and they've already set that goal for themselves. And if they continue with that mindset and everything, and good things could happen.
Well, like Coach will tell you, if they leave it all on the field, and then they'll hold anything back, then they cannot be anything but proud of themselves.
Absolutely. That's what it's all about, giving all you can in a team attitude, and then like you said, lay it out on the field and see what happens.
Well, yourself, we scored enough points even against Summit that if we hadn't given them the short field the whole first half, outcome could have been different.
But I think that's where we came back in the Spring Hill game and corrected those mistakes from Summit.
Right.
Because Summit had lost to Spring Hill.
Right.
So we corrected those errors. And if you played that game again the next week, I think we could have been a lot closer than what the score indicated.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe we get another shot in the playoffs. That'd be something to fight.
That'd be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah, sure would.
That'd be wonderful. What do you got, Ty?
Well, Connie Massey reminded me that the class of 1977 is having their reunion Friday and Saturday night. So
well, then someone will have
ties
to bring
along
me
to Central Football. So.
will bring me a announcement, and I can do that.
All right, we'll make sure you put it on the PA too.
Well, that's what I mean. Just
I know
bring
what
me
you
an
mean.
announcement. You know exactly what I mean. But if you'll
Yeah.
bring me Connie, if you'll bring me the information,
We'll put it on there. You'll announce it.
I will announce it. Or have
And,
What-
and
what year were you?
I will see to it that he does announce it.
You were a class in
19
60. You were 67. No, what were you?
Hold on, let me
Let's
get
just
that
talk
knife out
about
of
some
your
True Love's pizza.
hang on a minute.
Let's go to
Hang
True
on,
Love.
hang
back.
on a
Are you
second.
bleeding there?
Yeah, I just got tagged. I'm bleeding. I really am. 72. Now, I'll tell you about the class of 72.
I was close. I didn't think I was that close.
I only missed it by 5 years. Now, my brother was class of 65. And he was in the Columbia High School marching band with Bill Hull and Tommy Tucker as directors.
Mm-hmm.
When I was there in 72, the parking lot was gravel. Just saying. And what used to be the old art room at Columbia Central High School was the band room. Just saying. So there you go. Class of 72 protested everything. We weren't going to sell magazines. We were it was in the middle of the Vietnam War, so we're protesting the world, basically. So we refused to do a lot of things.
In my class of 74, we were kind of protesters too, but we also the photographer that was doing the pictures for the annual.
Mm-hmm.
That was when the Honda Civics were real little bitty things, and that's what he drove. Well, several of us guys would pick his car up and move it over onto the sidewalk in between two of the posts there, to where you only had about 6 inches each way to keep maneuvering until you could finally get the car out. Needless to say, we didn't get our annuals until July.
Yeah.
Well, it's time for picks. Who's going to win
Well,
this
Tennessee's
weekend?
not going to lose this weekend.
Well, they are going to stay 3-2. They will be 3-2, so they one game above 500 going into next week.
I think that the Titans, number one, are going to lose to Miami. That's just my pick. I'm just saying. I just don't think they have it.
What about Alabama at Texas
Texas
A&M?
Alabama's going to win.
Oh, yeah.
What about Vandy hosting Georgia?
Georgia will win,
Georgia
but I
win.
think Vandy will play them a better game than what Tennessee did.
It'll be close. I think they'll play them close. I think.
I agree.
All right, any more you want to throw out there at us?
Chip, you hadn't picked.
Yeah,
I think Georgia will beat Vandy.
Okay.
What about Alabama A&M?
I think the Collie Dog's gonna run hide somewhere.
Okay.
Missouri's at Kentucky.
Kentucky
Kentucky
will win.
will win
Kentucky.
that one.
Yeah.
Kentucky.
will win
Yeah.
that one.
Let's see. Ole Miss is on pro. They at least let Ole Miss play a football game.
All right. Who does Florida have this weekend?
Let's see. Ole Miss has got Auburn.
Auburn will win
Auburn.
it.
Oh, Auburn will
I
win
mean,
it.
Auburn
Yeah.
and Georgia are two
Yeah.
of the solid teams.
Yeah.
Who'd you ask me?
Florida.
Florida. Let's see. Florida has been luckier.
LSU at Florida.
Than LSU's done. I don't.
Florida beat 'em.
Florida beat them. Unless they pull a miracle, but both of those programs are not anything to
I mean,
get excited
Florida.
about.
Florida's fortunate to be where they're at as
I'd
far as
rather be lucky than good.
right. And you
Well, I
know,
jinxed Mississippi State. I thought Mississippi State was the second best team in the SEC, and they've
dropped two in a
disappointed me the
row.
last 2
Yeah.
weeks. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know what's happened there.
Well, you know, LSU lost to that other team from Alabama, the third team from Alabama.
Well, guys, this has been a fun show.
But Troy's
We're just
pretty
sitting,
good.
sitting
Yeah,
around
Troy's
talking
a good
football.
program.
I smell True
Absolutely.
Love's pizza.
I do too. I'm fixing to go get it. Thanks to Kathy and Glenn Trulove, by the way. True Love's Pizza and Grits, our fine sponsor. 1144 Riverside Drive here in Columbia. And
Me and you'll be there Thursday night.
yes, we will be there Thursday night for the Thursday night preview for Columbia Central High School. So for Vance Ballou and Ty Cobb and Chip Matlock and Eddie Bobo, I'm Dan James. Have yourself a good evening, everybody.